Hi, and welcome to the tutorial for our family album. And I'm not going to call this a mini album. It's a little bit bigger, but it's a nice size. So your pages are going to measure 9.5 by 7. And we're going to be going the long way. And so to get started, let's cut 5 pieces. These are going to be our base, and they are 7 by 9.5. Then you need 5 pieces to make our pocket page that are 8 by 9.5. I'm going to get started scoring. On this on the 8-inch side, we're going to score it 1/2 of an inch. Oops. There we go. And just turn it to the other side. This way we have a perfect 1/2 inch. And we're going to score all 5 pieces. So now that you know there's the 1/2 inch on each side, I'm not going to speed up the camera, but I will speed up my speed on quickly doing the rest of them. And this is a really fun album. We'll be doing the matting of our pages actually before we build the flaps. Okay. I lost my scissors. There they are, where they belong. I'm just going to miter off these corners. Our pocket pages will sit this way. Okay, let's go ahead and make our pocket. And grab a base, and I will be using the art glitter glue to attach my pages. And the side where we mitered, excuse me, the corner, oh goodness, it's going to be the opening. The other side will be the hinge. But one reason I really mitered these is I round the corners. And so I wanted to get rid of some of the bulk, so that when I use my crocodile, crocodile. Sorry, I'm using my rounded one. You can use any one of them because I didn't want just a square looking page. Okay, and with my dry wipe, make sure everything's down. If you're using the art glue, then you know it dries very, very fast. Open your page and repeat. Make sure you do get rid of any glue that doesn't belong where you want it to be. Make sure everything matches. Like I said, everything is down. And our second page. And I'm using the craft, just like I did in the original album. Grab one of your bases. And I'm going to end up with some glue where it doesn't belong, so I need to first take care of this. There, and then I can clean that off. And you will notice if you are using the artisan cardstock that I sell in the store, I do have to burnish it really well because it's a very heavy, really nice cardstock. You don't have to worry about damaging it either. So make sure those creases are nice and like them to be nice and creased. Number 3, we're going to move right along. That way. And this is a really nice size album for a great Christmas gift, especially if you want a family type album. But sometimes we don't want, I'm finding out, I don't want to put like all the pictures in an album. And I think this one's a nice one if you're going to give it as a gift. You've got, you have a few family pages. And you're going to have one, you know, that's just mom, one dad. You can do brothers and sisters. And on the brothers and sisters, that's where I kind of left the cut parts. I didn't attach them anywhere, as you noticed in the original album, because maybe they don't have a brother or sister, or maybe they have all sisters. And that way, the person, if it's a gift or they've purchased it, they can take the card out that they don't want to use. And I'm going to burnish both sides. Make sure there's no glue anywhere I don't want it. One thing I usually do is I check, and I didn't on that other one, and I noticed it was over just a hair, not enough to cause an issue. And make sure, nope, we're going to be just fine. What happens when you squish too hard? I like this size of page when you're wanting a larger album, but it's not too big. It's still one of those albums though that does take a lot of paper. It does take a little extra, of course. But when it comes to family albums, you usually want them to be a little bit bigger for your families, your weddings, your babies. If you're just doing a fun one for a girlfriend or neighbor. Then you usually can go smaller. And this is our last page. And I always do push against my score line like that, because I have found when I use the paper for the weight, it keeps my score line straight. Again. Okay, let's grab our stack, and I'm going back to the top one that I did first, but let me put this. Oh, so I'm going to use my rounded, my 1/2 inch, and you can use any one of these that you like, but I'll be honest with you, if you don't have one that's made for really thick paper, you may not get through. But now I've rounded those corners off, and it really gives it a different look instead of just square. And it looks like I do need to trim this one a hair. And I'm looking for that end that, there we go, where I mitered the corners, because it did take a little bit of the bulk off. Makes it just a little bit easier. For my punch to go through. And number 5. Okay, now if you have one like I do, I don't know if you can see, you can barely see it. So, if it's going to drive you nuts, then you just have to cut it off like I do. You want to be very gentle, very careful. Make sure your knife is sharp. Do not cut that edge. Don't force it, just very lightly. And then you will have it all taken care of. Anything that hung over. There we go. You do not want to cut into that score line. And then just double check it. Nope, I did it. Okay, now with this album, we have the 5 pages. And we will get started with matting our pages. And if you're going to follow along, so this was the first one I had made, not album, but just page, to double check my size, to show you what I chose. And let me show you how I did that. So what I did is I took my paper pack, because you do need more than one. So you'll need the 2. I turned them over, so you have your really decorative side. If you notice, the back sides were the more subtle prints, and these are the ones that I used to be my base, basically, pages, because they did not have, you know, all the stuff. Now, some of them you can decide which side. Some of them, both sides will work. Some like that won't, but yes, you will be cutting into your cut aparts. That's why it will take more than one. And like on this one, you know, you can decide, do you want the flowers on the front and of course the plaid. And this is another good instance. If you don't really want to have a lot of the family stuff there, then of course you can use the other side. So I really like this collection for that. And I like that actually, you know, some of them either side will work. And that's how I went through and basically picked how I was going to do my backgrounds. So my backgrounds, which this one is one of my favorites. I almost did the whole album in this, to be honest with you. But I thought, no, we got to give it some personality, but I did. So you will want the 2 paper packs, and there'll be the extra sheets. And I made sure that I counted them and checked them so that you would know exactly how many that you also needed. And so we'll get started because we're actually going to be matting these and building our flaps right on top of each page. So it's a little bit different than what I've done in the past. But I thought, you know, we need something different. Different is good. And I'll be using my sepia ink. So if you want to get that out, and then we will start matting and making our photo mats and our cute little tuck spots that all these flaps have. Like I mentioned in the beginning, most of the building of our flaps is going to be directly onto our pattern paper. We'll only have 1 or 2 areas where we're going to build, and it sits underneath our pattern paper. So let's go ahead and grab our first page that is 9.5 by 7, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my pattern paper at 6 7/8 by 9 3/8. And it was so hard to choose, but for this first page I want to use the softer floral side, and I will go ahead and round my corners just like I did on the actual pages. And I will be using the Prima Philosophy in sepia. And we'll now adhere that to, oops, our page. Whoops. Time for a new pen. Sorry about that. Let me grab a new glue tip or a new pen for my glue. And the replacements, I do have the replacements available at countrycraftcreations.com. You do get 5 of these, and you know they do wear out after a while. And there's not much we can do when we use it as much as I do. Those corners. And if you're working with a heavier cardstock like Cartabella or the pattern, textured paper of Authentique, you don't ever have to worry about the glue causing your pages to buckle, move. I mean, it's just a superior glue product that you don't have to worry about it damaging the paper or seeping through. Especially on this thicker cardstock. It works like a dream. When we were making our pages, you should have quite a few scraps left. So let's pull those out, make sure we have the sizes we need. I keep all mine just in a cellophane. And I'll be honest with you, we probably are not going to have the sizes we need for these, because you need to cut your first one at 5 1/8, no, 5 1/2 by 8, and then you need one that is 5 1/2 by 6. And I just need to grab a pencil so I can mark this. Okay, we'll get those cut. So your first one is 5 1/2 by 8. I forgot to turn off the noise. There we go. And then 5 1/2 by 6. There we go. So we'll start with the 5 1/2 by 8. And we're going to score that at 4. Now this one you want to score at 1 1/2 on the 6-inch side. Fold it. So when it opens, we're going to have that little pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and round my corners. And we need to mat these. Whoops, helps if I stay in the camera. We need to mat these before we put these down, this one down especially. The way this page is going to overhang. And making sure we're perfectly straight. And I'm going to round these corners now. You can even round the tops if you like, but it's not, not necessary. You can leave them square. So now we have a 1 1/2 by 6-inch piece, and this you want, or 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. I mean, yeah, 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. And I thought I had all notifications turned off, so you guys didn't have to hear this. There we go. So I want to use this back side that we just cut, and you should have this really nice little piece. So I just need to cut the length to 5 3/8. And then for the 1 1/2, well, it's going to be 1 3/8. So I have that little bit of a border. Keep the other little piece. I'm sure that you'll want to use it. And round these corners. I just really thought it'd be fun to do a mini album that is a little bit different than just your normal flaps that we, put down in the mat. Something different to really show off this fun paper. Double check our fit. And you can also reconfigure where you want your flaps to be this way. It's not going to be just one side or in the center. So if you make your album a different size, then you can do a different configuration. And it's really fun to do the matting actually as we go, because you accomplish more. We'll actually have it done a lot quicker than you think. So the main thing is we want to just kind of lay things out. Now this one is going to, I'm going to bring this down more because this is going to sit towards the top, and it is going to cover some of this little pocket. And I'm looking for those little, oh, I misplaced everything. I have the sayings out. But anyway, you'll be able to put one of the little sayings in there. One thing you can do, because we're going to make this partially a pocket. Let me show you. Bring this to the edge. We're going to be making this more of a pocket. Just leave a little bit of the glue out there, and you can actually, or I mean, do not glue this side. Make it a three-sided a little bit. But it just takes a little cleverness to bypass that, if that makes sense. I know you guys are super talented, though, and you'll get it all figured out. So I like to use my mat. And it helps me to place things a little straighter. And I'm going to use my 1/2 inch mark. So I'm actually bringing it over a hair more. I'm going to draw a line. Then I'm going to place this to the right of the line so it won't be seen. But I should have a straight line. Should have. That's the magic word. And for this, I am doing measuring. Yes, I know, that's a shock, but I want to make sure it's straight all the way up. So basically, I'm using my ruler up and down, and as long as that one mark stays exactly on the line, I know it's straight. Then I'll set this just right on top so that it hides that line. Whoops. Now remember, this is a pocket, so we only want to go on the 3 sides. Hold the one end until I get the other end down. Bring those sides out. I do not know how on earth let me cut this. I lost those things. Oh, I know they're sitting here. So I'm just going to take now a piece of my cardstock, make sure it's not stuck where it shouldn't be. So I'll keep that handy. I'm going to have to find those things. I found my sayings. So you're wanting to make sure of your placement. We're going to have a large magnet behind here, and then we want it to be on the bottom of the inside here, and that's what's going to hold this together. And again, making sure our placement is straight. Using your card to make sure that you have enough room for, I'm using a large magnet, and I do. So I'm placing it a little more towards the top, and that gives me a little more of a space here. See, this one has a lot of like strip little tags that you can place inside there. Just kind of cute. And then this is going to be a pocket, and we'll be able to put a tag here. I'll have a string that it can pull out, and we'll be making those too. So let's go ahead and make sure when you pick this up, remember which side you want open. I did this on my other one, and I had to clean off all the glue because you don't want to seal the wrong edge. Because it really won't work well from the hinge. And I'm kind of using those polka dots to center mine. Now, this is where I'll be honest with you. If you wanted to turn this into more of a usable area, grab your piece of cardstock and slide it in there to keep it from adhering, and it still will be a usable pocket. I'll show you. You could still slide a tag in there, but you could also put a larger tag that will go under. Okay, just making sure that this spot is not adhered right there. This is about a 2-inch area. Make sure the rest of it is. Now, this doesn't have to be a pocket. You can adhere it all the way down too if you'd like. Okay, pretty. I'll leave that there for just a moment. Re-burnish these edges. Okay, let me grab my large magnet. We will be matting our card. So just kind of get an idea of where that magnet should go. And your placement. Now I'm holding this edge so I can flip that up. Hold this edge so you can flip that one up. I'm just filling the bottom down with my fingers. I have the tools. I should use them. We'll map this. And for matting this, I don't want to put it just on the plain paper. So I will be matting it. Let's go ahead and cut a mat for here. And because I used my large magnet, see, it will hold. And our card is going, my matting is going to be 3 3/4 by 4. I'm going to take a little bit off mine.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and ink our edges. While we're inking our edges, let me just see. What's up?
So I'll let you finish that.
Okay, let us finish. Thank you, dear. Okay, we'll continue, the boss said. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere this down. Go around the magnet just a little bit. Want to make sure my paper is stuck down there. Here we go around the paper where that magnet is. And then after we get our pages in is where we'll build our the decorations, and then we'll also, of course that's a different color, I'll have that flag. We'll be making the flag that was there, and we'll use some of the embellishments. So now we can turn it to the back, and we'll get our back side done. Oh, and when I do the back, I'm going to go ahead and take this card off. Page 2 again is going to take some measuring, but when you also, let me show you, if you've taken this off because you don't want to work with that double magnet, when you flip this over, you want to make sure it's not upside down. I almost did that. So now if you've done the rounded edge, it should be to the left, which is going to be the opening for our tag, and our hinge is now on the right hand side. And I did do some cutting. I had to pre-check my sizes, so I will give you the measurements. So if you're doing this page like I'm doing it in the book, so the first piece I cut was 8 inches. So this first pattern piece is 8 inches by the 6 7/8. Just in case I forget to tell you the width, it's always going to be 6 7/8 when we're matting. My decorative piece, which was the back side, is 1.5 by 6 7/8. It will just barely overlap the red pattern, and then I will be using this lace, the flat. I love this lace. That will go right there. We'll do this on both sides, and they'll kind of match in the middle. And then, of course, this page is made for the other side, but we will be cutting these, and I'll show you how we're going to make these. Very simple. A nice little pocket. I need to just flatten that out a little. I just really hate using my little fiskars. Sometimes I have to. I'm not going to do it when I make the pocket with you. Okay. And I didn't put it together, of course, because I want to show you, because one, it has to be the opposite, because they go on the opposite sides, of course. So for this piece, you're going to cut a piece of cardstock, your cardstock, that is, you need 2 of them, 8 1/4 by 10. So I need to cut myself one more, 8 1/4 by 10, 8 1/4 by 10. Okay, move my front pocket. So first we're going to score this on the 10-inch side at 5 inches. Then you're going to turn this, and I'll tell you one reason I didn't turn it the other way. Let me show you. Well, I'll show you. It'll be better this way. Score it at 2 1/2. So that now, or you can come over here and just score at 5 3/4. You just want to make sure this piece is 5 3/4. Now, when we fold this one, because now we need it to open this we need it to open this way. You want to make sure you're not folding this way. Hope that makes sense. Lay it down and fold it to your left. And we're going to fold those up towards the front. And sometimes, you know, you just can't worry about that mountain and valley because, well, you just can't. Because it just depends on how you're going to fold your page. So, now this will become the pocket. We're going to adhere this down. So we want to cut this right side off. And I'm just going to do it by hand. I just don't, my Fiskars cutter isn't my favorite thing in the world because it never makes a nice crisp cut. And I have to use it for these small items. So I just grab my big scissors and I cut. Comes out pretty straight because you don't have a small blade there. You're able to cut off a lot at once. Now if I need to go back, I just take my little, I call my fussy cutting scissors, clean up that edge, and if I have to clean up that corner, anything that was left over. And I like to make sure also on these that nothing hangs over the edge. Once you're happy with it, let's go ahead and round those edges. And for me, I want to round all my edges so it matches. Kind of a rounded edge type book. The only one that won't be rounded is this inside one. It'll stay square. So I made the second one, and I did it the exact same way. But now on this one, again, you've got to remember it's going to now open this way. Oh, and so, you know, I completely did it backwards. Of course I did, because I'm on camera. I cut the wrong side. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I didn't. There we go. Got a little confused. Okay, this one's going to open this way. This one opens this way. There we go. Sorry about that. But if you follow my tutorials, you already know how I am. Okay, we don't want to adhere this down until we mat. Okay. I'm just going to burnish those up really good. Set these to the side. Again, making sure I have my page going the correct way because I rounded the corners. I know that it is facing the correct way. Now, the lace. Couple of options. I like to use score tape. I like to actually wrap it sometimes, but I'll show you on this. It can be a little difficult to wrap, but we can still do it. When you wrap your lace, it gets rid of those ends, but we have to do this. It's actually best if you can adhere this and basically make this one piece. So if you're planning on wrapping it, even if you're not, maybe just want to put beads there. I'm just adding a really thin layer, and if I was using score tape, I would use my 1/8 of an inch. And I'm doing it on the page itself so that I can make sure I'm keeping it where it belongs. And I didn't keep it where it belongs. It slipped, and so one side was shorter than the other. Let me try this again. Okay, holding that tight, making sure it's at the top. There we go. Now I can remove that. you can wrap this around using that end. Then I'll just trim this side. You don't need much. So we need to wrap our score tape also to the back. I'm not taking it all the way off. And you may have some extra, it's okay. Just make sure it doesn't like stick to the board and then you can't get it up. Now I will go down in here and I will actually add some glue in the decorating phase. I mean, it's down pretty good with your score tape. But I like to add the glue just to make sure it is. Now, when I do this also, I use score tape along the top here. And then I can use my art glue the rest of the way. Okay, get our page ready. Push down really good there. And then our pocket will go here. Oh, wait a minute. I did this backwards. No, this one's gonna, yeah, this one's gonna open this way. And I will be using a magnet to close this. And again, we do want to do a little bit of measuring because we want to be able to match both sides. You know, me and that pencil, we have such a, there we go, bright green. You wouldn't think I'd lose it, but I do. So I'm matching it to the matting. Well, no, let's go to the edge of the page. That way both sides will be perfect. I'm just making a dot at 1 inch. That will sit on top of my 1 inch. Actually, the other one was 3/4, so let's just stick with our 3/4. I'm holding this top, just making sure, nope. So I'm going to go all the way down. Make a dot where this should go. In a couple of spots. So you probably can't even see them on the camera, but now I'll know this is my bottom. Put that there, and that's going to go right there on top of the other one. So however you need to do yours to measure, it's fine. And then they both should be about 1 3/4, not quite. So my ruler says they're pretty close to both, about 1/4, 3/4 of an inch from the top and bottom. Okay. And this one's going to go all the way down. There's my bottom mark. I'm just overlapping so I can hide those pencils. I'm using this to make sure we're somewhat straight. Being very gentle. I don't want to get any glue on my pattern paper if I can help it. It won't show if you're using art glue, but I still want to try and keep it nice and clean. Furnish that edge because we did the scoring instead of, adding two pieces together. Like I said, I wanted to do something different. I was very happy with how this one turned out. Just because it was, different from our normal flaps and folds. And down go the magnets. I did put it somewhat in the middle. And then we will come back and we'll do the matting on the inside of both of these. Basically after we get our scraps and decide what we want to use. So now we need to do the front of page 2, which is actually going to be somewhat the opposite. We'll have the hinge here. These two now will match. And we'll do the exact same thing. So let me grab, oh, that's dry now. Yep, nice and dry. Now I still have my little pocket for a small tag. Okay, so I cut my paper once again at 8 inches by 6 7/8. And my little piece was 6 7/8 by 1 1/2. Really like this paper. Now we need to put down our back piece first. So I'm going to do this one just a hair different so it doesn't move on me. Don't know why I didn't use my clothespins before. Down goes that little tiny bead of glue, or your 1/8 of an inch score tape, whichever you prefer. Make sure we match top to bottom, that's important. Ensure it's straight. Okay, we can do our ribbon or lace, whatever you would like to use. That's long. Perfect. Will be it's a little long, so I'll cut it. Cut your end off. Make sure it's down good and firm. And then my 3/8 I'm going to put across here again. And we're ready. Oh, no, we're not. Oops. Excuse me. You go get your jammies on. Good night. And our art glue everywhere else. Good night. Love you. See you in the morning. Okay. Sorry, you might be hearing some bedtime noise. We're getting ready for bed. It's hard to believe it's 8:30, not even 8:30, and it's dark outside. We definitely are moving into fall. That's okay too, though. All right, let's get that glue spread around. Make sure those edges are down. And then our page can go down. Now, same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead with my 1 3/4-ish at the bottom. And remember, I'm not measuring from my matting. I'm measuring from the actual page. And I'm kind of backwards here. I made my mark. There it is. So I know that's going to be the bottom. Okay, get my first dot there. Over just, there we go. A hair. Goodness, now everything's going to be in the way. Okay, hold that, move this as needed. Okay, I'm going to stay in camera here. There, make sure we're the same. And we're pretty good. We got here at the top, a couple there in the middle, and I did it upside down. I bet you guys were yelling at me too. It's okay. I just need to remark the top and the bottom. Wow. I think it's getting late. So my bottom, wow. There's the bottom now. Can't believe I didn't even notice that. You were probably all hollering at me. I'm going to push this over that way. I'm going to set my next page. That's my magnet. So we can kind of make sure things look even kill. Times like this. Got this huge table, but it's never long enough, is it? And we're going to put this right at the top. Make sure I like the way it looks. Make sure my markings are pretty good. And they look great. I'm going to kind of keep this close. Mine is going to have to come up. Okay, and I'm going to replace mine. Okay, for the pockets, let's go ahead and do match just this outside part so we can put our pocket up so it won't be dangling. It is one of the cut aparts, and I chose to use this black side. And let me go ahead and move this for just a minute. I don't need that big space now. I cut it at 4 7/8 by 5 7/8. Magnets are wanting to stick together. Put them there for just a moment. This will go all the way down. I cut it too long. It is going to be, oh, it's 5 3/4. That's why. So I cut it too long. So you only want it to be about 5 5/8. Oh, that one's right. Well, one of them was right, so that's good. There we go. Now I can round my corners, and we can get this glued up, and it won't catch, or, you know, we won't ruin that pocket as we're working on our other pages. Our edges. And because we did use a lot of the cut aparts, that's why I've used 2 packages of my paper. Oh, not quite over as far as I wanted, but it's okay. Now let's go ahead and add a top. Oops, not off the edge. This isn't a pocket to like a hole to hold, you know, a huge amount, just a few of the cut aparts. Sure nothing oozes out. And as that's drying, we'll go ahead and add the top. So I cut, it's the back side, and I cut mine at 2 3/8 by the 4 7/8. And you can also strategically place your alphabet if you're looking for a certain letter of the alphabet, maybe for your family name, or you just want to have the right alphabets there. That will go down on the front. So you've got quite a bit of room. And I'll do this inside because again, I'll probably use, you know, leftovers or more of a plain paper on the inside. So that is actually, that's page 1, front and back. And then page 2, we're going to repeat the same thing. Around my edges. Let me go ahead and we'll ink this one. Okay, once again, just a bead on the edge, or your 1/8 of an inch score tape. And there we have, maybe just fix that. It'll lay flatter. There we go. There we have back of page 1, and then it matches with the front of page 2 to sort of give you that layout look. Okay, let's go on to page 3. Keep losing my little guy. He catches on the magnet of my cutter. The back of page 3, then I chose the cardstock that has mother, father, daughter, sister, friends together, and then also the plaid. And it was a really hard choice, but I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the plaid. And this is the one where we're going to build that double page that opens. So first of all, let's go ahead and put our cardstock down. You know, that is a really hard choice, being that it is a family album. I think maybe I will go with this one. Never mind. It was my first choice, but I like the plaid, but that's okay. I can mat. We can mat the flap and all the flaps with it. So okay, let's go ahead and put that down. And remember, we're cutting our mats 9 3/8 by 6 7/8. And mine's just a little bumpy on that other side because of our lace that we laid out there. Okay, once you have that down, check. I should have checked on my magnet situation beforehand. Okay, we'll get those in just a moment. So you're going to want 3 pieces of cardstock. Your first one is going to be 7 inches. If I get a better frame here. Okay, we've got 7 inches by 6 1/2. Is your first piece. Your next piece is 6 1/2 by 6 1/2. And you know what, I was writing these down, and I need to quickly jot these measurements down. And I'll go grab my magnets, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. We're going to give those measurements once again. So you want 1 piece of cardstock that is 5 by 6. 1 piece that is 7 by 6 1/2. And then our 6 1/2 by 6 1/2 inch piece. We're going to start with our 7 inch piece, and you will want to score that at 1/2 inch. The 6 1/2 by 6 1/2 is our base, so there's no scoring. But on our 5 by 6, on the 5 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Grab a hold of anything. Air conditioning on, my fingers are like frozen. And my studio's in the ground level, so it gets kind of cold. So let's furnish up those 2 score lines that we have. And then we want to adhere this piece to the base. And it doesn't matter whether you do it on top or behind. One thing, when you do put it behind, you're going to notice one thing. You might have that little 1/16 of an inch of the paper in the back showing, which is something I prefer because it gives a little peek of the paper and the recipient knows to lift it open. So I like to put mine definitely on the back, but the choice is yours. If you want them to be perfectly even, then you can go ahead and put your adhesive on this side and place it on top. And I'm just going to place this in the back. Make sure we're straight. Now, if for any reason you did it and it's off or you don't like it, you can always trim that off. We'll be putting a tab during the decorating, so your recipient will know to open it there. And I always do have to trim mine. I'll show you. See how it's just a hair over? So I just miter that in. Nobody even knows but you. Okay, now our top flap, it's going to sit on top. We really don't want it behind because then it might get in the way of opening and closing. So I like to sit this one just right on top, centered somewhat. Okay, after we put this on our page, we'll add the magnet. So now we're back to where, remember, this is where our tags will go. And this is going to be the hinge. There we go. Mine was pretty tight, so if it feels like it's pretty tight, you can help loosen that up a little bit. And this, again, is personal choice where you want it. I want it more towards this end. You can bring it in the center, but I want to do the decorating right here. So on this whole back, I'm going to apply my adhesive. And one thing I didn't do, which I always forget, go in here and get a little rambunctious. And that's to clip these corners. I'm going to have glue on my cutter, which is okay. It will clean up just fine. They ought to call me the messy crafter. That's what you should call me. Okay, now I only have about a 1/4 inch top, 1/4 inch at the bottom. Once you have it placed, then you can burnish it down really well. Okay. Now, I want my one magnet to hold down everything. So the first one's going to go on the small one. Second one is going to go on the base here. Now, one thing when we do it this way, one of these magnets, let me show you. It's going to be, because see, we want, oh, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. I had two on my other one, I guess, that I used two, either positives or negatives. That's why I had to change the tape. So ignore me. Don't pay attention to what I'm doing or saying. There. So now we have the magnet that will hold down our middle page. Then we will do, you can do your photo mats, you can do these plain. You know, I'll do a photo mat here, like on my other one, I'll have a photo mat here. And there we have, oh, no, we have a pocket. Wow, I need to slow down. Sorry, guys. My brain is moving faster than what I'm thinking here, and I'm losing, there we go. Down here is where I made that pocket. So our photo mat, or our mat base piece here, is now 6.5. I didn't want a very large one, so I'm going to do 6.5 for my first cut, and then 2.5. No, 7. Okay. The pocket is going to be 7.5 by 2.5. Just gives us a little pocket, maybe to put some of the cute cut aparts or extra pictures. And we're going to score on the 3 edges, 1 long and 2 short on the 7.5-inch side, both ends. Now for this, let's go ahead and burnish those edges and just check our fit. You want to make sure it's going to fit and not hang over the edge. Mine looks pretty good, but I need to go ahead and round my corner. So it matches. I can cut that up that way and cut that down this way. So I can match it up right there and right there. And I'll just cut this one across the bottom. And I want to go ahead and round my top. You can use any decorative punch that you like. I think on the top I'll just use my 1/4-inch side. Just make a little bit of a rounded off. But you'll want to cut that down. I'm just checking side to side, yeah, making sure it's not too close to the hinge of that first page. Go ahead and burnish our score lines really well. Clean that tip off. I'm going to take my smaller putty knife to make sure, yeah, see my corners are open. Now down here, you're going to want to add, lift it up, see that? Just right there, you want to add a touch of your adhesive. Because we didn't have a hinge, we rounded it off. So that we're just going to do on the corner. There we go. So let's grab page, our next page should be page 3. Just try to keep, oh, that was my sample. Sorry, I'm trying to keep them all together. And, man, I thought it was all prepared. I had to pull those out so I don't lose my pages. Okay, so now we're going to pick out the base, what we want to do on this one. There we go. Remember, the opening's this way, and the hinge now will be to our left, because this is going to be the opposite page of this one. Okay. I thought I was going to do great tonight. For the back of page 3, I'm going to use the plaid, or the Danbury. What do they call this? You know what I mean. It's really pretty though. So this will be our opposite page. We'll go ahead and put this down, and then I'll give you the measurements for the next 2 photo mats. So the nice thing is, this is a big album, but it does go by really well, quick. It still has interaction, but it's really nice to be able to just build right on the page. Something different that I love to do family albums, but I'll be honest with you, I get a lot of requests for them, so I don't have a lot of time to sit there and build tons of the flaps, even though the flaps and pockets are fun, but this still has that interaction, but it does seem to go by a little quicker than some of the other albums we do, because we're able to do this matting part, and I kind of like that for a change. Get things matted, build on there, and my mat will always fit. That's what I really like. Okay, first piece we're going to cut is going to be 7 inches by 4 1/4. Your next piece is going to be 8 1/4 by 6. So the piece that is 8 1/4 by 6, we're going to score at 4 1/8, basically in half. Then the 4 1/4 by 7, you're going to put on the 7-inch side and score it 1 1/2 inch. This is going to be another one that has that cute little pocket like we did in the beginning. So let's bring these together. Matching top and bottom. And this is actually going to be opening this way. Okay, now we can go ahead and fold up that 1 1/2 inch. And again, if you're going to round off your corners, this was the exact thing we made at on the very first page. Let me show you. So this will sit right at this edge. Now, okay, on this one, actually I did try to go a little bit longer, which I shouldn't have. I should have measured, but we're going to go ahead and cut off this piece, and I'll tell you where we're going to cut it, because I want to be able to fold this open. And I'm just, One of those nights. That's all I can say. Can't find anything. Okay. With this folded behind us, let's go ahead and cut this off at 4 7/8. You could, let's go to 5. Let's leave that folded, cut it down to 5. And then we'll see where that hits. The nice thing about recording is I can come back on it the next day after my brain is not fried, and we can do this correctly. Now, as you recall, I gave you the original measurements, and I was trying to put this, and I don't know why I didn't grab my album and look at it, because these actually do overlap. Let's turn off the sounds. These overlap. Then we open small place just to put a few little tucks. And I had you actually remember original size, and then we cut this. So this is 6 1/2, and I'm going to recut mine. Mine is going to be 7 1/2 because we need more of an overlap so that the pocket's here. And I'm really sorry. I should edit that out, but keep this aside. You can use it. So we're going to go 7 1/2 by 4 1/4. It was one of those nights when I wanted to craft, but I just probably shouldn't have been. So I'm glad I put things away, and we're starting kind of over. So we're going to score here on the 7 1/2 inch side at 1 1/2. And I do apologize. It is a holiday weekend, so you might hear noises coming up and down the stairs. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to round off our corners. And I'll grab our little booklet and do the same because I want it to match. I'm recording. Okay, now they know we're recording. Okay, remember, our rounded side is here. Okay, our booklet, basically, we're going to sit this at about 1 inch from our hinge side. And then I'm putting this just about 1/4 inch on this side where the tags will be. Then we'll have a magnet on this flap and on the inside of our little booklet. So we can go ahead now and either mark, I'm going to mark a spot there so I know. But I want to overlap it so I don't have, oh great, something's in my eye. So I don't have, I'm recording. She's actually walking around, my granddaughter, with her own camera recording. She was going to come in here and try and record with us. We're making a crafting little monster, which is okay. Whoops. And the whole back side. I'm just going to use my mark that I made. And I always love using plaids and stripes. It really helps with placement. Keeps things a little straighter. Okay. We won't put our magnets down yet. Okay, now our second piece. Bring it right over to the edge. A little bit. So it looks like probably 3/8 of an inch, a little more than 1/4 of an inch, I would say. It's about 1/2 inch. But placement, again, on this album, the nice thing is you can put it where you like. You just need enough room for your magnets. And again, you might want to, once we get a view of where you're liking it, just lift up a little bit so you know placement needs to go just above. Little teeny tiny mark, you probably can't even see it. And once again, this is going to be a pocket, like we did on our first page. And I am using that red line as a guide to keep things straight. And I kept my little piece from before. I just want to make sure I don't get too much, because we need a little room for our little tag. See, that's a cute little tag, actually, 2.5 by 3 will fit in there. Okay. Now we can place our magnets. Open this one. See, and I love how it extends over. Pretty much center, leaving that space. Then we can open this one. Garbage can kind of just push to the side. And let's put that down. And now that's far enough away that I know my paper will be hidden. And there we have really nice size photo mat. So you could take your 4x6, cut it down to fit. Same here. And now the back side. So I did already cut my matting. And I did cut the pieces, so oops, move that one. First I'll put our matting down, the mat down, and then I will go through the sizes with you. No, I am using the plaid, that's right. So I'm going to go ahead and round the corners, ink my edges. Love this plaid. I love the color of the blue. It's very like old washed denim blue. It's not super bright. Of course, denim always goes great with florals. And all the mats are the same size, the 6 7/8 by 9 3/8 for matting my base page. Kind of like to seal those edges first, so hopefully none of the adhesive will seep through. Oops, when I go back over and get it all spread in the center. Okay, let me give you the pieces, the sizes for our pieces. So you want a piece that is 3 inches by 3 1/4. Three and a quarter by 5 1/2. 3 1/4 by 6. 3 3/4 by 6, 3 1/4 by 5 1/4, and we have 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Sorry, so there was 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. So you'll need to get those cut, and then we'll start scoring. When I typed up the measurements, I doubled them because you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side of the page. That is why on the written, it shows that it is double. Okay, the two pieces that are, well, there'll be 4, but 2 on each side. 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Those will be the photo mats. And I'm going to round the corners of mine. These will be matted after we put our album all together. That way that will match. So we will have our 2 photo mats right there, and then we'll have this cute little pocket over on the side. So we need to do some scoring. The 6-inch piece, so all these are going to be 3 1/4, except for you do have one that's wider, but the 3 1/4 by 6 is going to be the base. This is going to be that flap that comes over that we need to score, and this is the bottom and the top. So the 6-inch piece, just set it aside so that you don't accidentally grab that piece, or so I don't accidentally grab that piece. I'm going to take my 6-inch piece that is 3 3/4 here on the 3 3/4 inch side, and I want to score it at 1/2. Now the 3 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece on the 5 1/2 inch side, go ahead and score at 1/2 of an inch. And on your 3 by 3 1/4, you want to put it on the 3-inch side and score at 1/2. And then we'll put this together, we'll put it down, but we do need to put our photo mats down so that we make sure we don't go over the line. Okay, one thing you want to check is your 3 1/4 by 6-inch piece. When you lay this piece that we just scored on top, you want to make sure it doesn't hang over the edges. Now for this one, oops, I will be putting it on the back side. Okay, basically, but let's go ahead, well, maybe, I may change that. I should think before I speak. Let's go ahead and just fold up our score lines. Let's do this first. I've gotten better about writing down my instructions over here so that when I get on camera, I'm not so fumble-brained, because I'll make things, but I just make them. But I'm getting better. So when I teach you, you don't think I'm just totally crazy. You probably think I am anyway. Okay, this one is going to go at the top. And I am going to wrap it over. Okay. I might have to if I stay in camera too. And our little flap that's going to keep it closed at the bottom. I'll do the same thing now on page 4. The front of page 4 is going to be the same as this one, but we're just going to reverse this piece. It's going to have the flap at the top instead of here on the bottom. Okay, now we can add this piece. And one reason we don't want to add this first, sometimes these do have to be trimmed down if they are in the way of our, let me show you, score lines at the top and the bottom. Sometimes that does happen. And I like to be able to score it, to cut it shorter if we need. You can put this on the inside. Let me show you. This, because the score lines here, does make just a hair, not a lot, but it does make a little bit of bulk that I like to put it to the back because I just felt it fit a lot nicer on this little project with those flaps. They're not like huge flaps, this bottom one. And putting it to the back took some of this bulk off of the front. Going to close like that. That will come over the top, and that will come up on the bottom. And we do want a magnet. So it's totally up to you on this one. Because of the thickness of the paper, I still will use my large magnet. Cartabella is quite thick, just like the Authentiques paper, but we may need to put it underneath this top flap because we want to make sure it's always hidden. Makes it really hard to cover it with the thick paper. It's too close to our edge. Remove our magnet. And there we have our cute little flap. Now on the opposite side, we're going to have it open from the top, but we do need to switch this piece, and we'll do that together. So go ahead and grab your page, making sure it's not upside down. So the first thing we want to do is actually put down our photo mats. Mine was upside down. I knew something was wrong. Okay. Because my rounded corners should be matching these rounded corners. And then it's grabbing everything. Okay. So let's go ahead and put our, photo mats down. And now your 3 1/4 inch piece will fit nicely on the side. and then open it up so that we can make sure we burnish it down really well. Isn't that a cute page? Photos right there, and then you can do journaling and more memorabilia in there, or you can write on there. So now we need to grab our next page. Let me put this over here so I'm kind of keeping things in order. We're going to repeat. Let's remove. We have the exact same sizes. Once again, trying to keep everything together. So I thought that would look really nice with the blue plaid next to it. Let's go ahead and put our page down. So matting is going to be the same size. If for some reason it changes, I'll make sure to let you know, but the matting is all the same. Sorry, no, I try to not rub too much. It just probably sounds awful on the camera. Oh, what happened here? Something is not the right size. And I had that checked. No, it is wrong. Quickly fix that. Okay, that's better. Whoops. I guess I better check the next couple of papers. I did cut it after that one night when I wasn't doing so well. Okay, let's do some more gluing quickly. Oh, it's going to grab. There's no room to move that. It wants to dry now. It's the thing with the art glue, you got to move fast. And you have to get the edge. Oh, no, I'm not. It's down. I'm just going to go around one last time. Now, the only difference is our photo mats will be on this hinge side. And they are the 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. So I won't round these corners off. And then over here will be the same thing we did, except for now this one will open at the top. Just want to double look. No, I'm going to go ahead and round them. I did on the other one. I need to on this one so it matches. Otherwise, it won't match. Okay, let's go ahead and score. And I am missing one piece. I didn't cut my 3 1/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, that was a quick fix. So let's start with the 3 3/4 inch piece, and let's go ahead and score that at 1/2 of an inch. That's our base because it's our 6-inch piece. And our 3 1/4 by 3, you want to score on the 3-inch side at 1/2. It just seems so wide to me. I don't know why. So on our 3 1/4 by 5 1/4, let's score it 1/2 of an inch. Let's fold up the side pocket. Now this, what it was our bottom flap, it becomes our top flap. Much better. It actually won't matter the direction we put it together because we'll just turn it upside down. So once again, I'm just going to add my adhesive to the back. Well, what will be the inside because I'm going to wrap it to the back. I didn't round my corners. Get those rounded before I put them on. Now it matters. Well, kind of does, but it doesn't. For me, it does because I want to make sure that my flap piece goes to the outside, not to the inside of my page. So my page is now going to be like this, and I want it to open to the outside. Still won't really, well, it does, because if you turn it that way, then your flap is going to be just like the one we just made. And you can have it open to that inside if you like. Boy, I'm feeling all fumble fingers, and I'm sure you're noticing that. I don't know why today, or this week, or this month, basically. Like the coordination of my fingers isn't there. No adhesive. And bottom up, top over, and my magnet again. Yeah, I did. We just made it. You'd think I wouldn't have forgotten, but I did. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and grab our page. Just going to lay that to the side while I lay down my photo mats. Now, if you want things to pretty much match, grab the other page. Sit them next to each other. That way, if you're trying to put your photo mats basically the same, then you'll have it to be used as your guide. Or you can measure it. Now I will have a middle piece there, a little decoration, because you notice I did get just a hair off. But it's not bad. So nothing that the little decoration won't cover. We'll make that little stopper that goes there for our photos. Okay, let's get that burnished down. Oh, I really squished that glue out. Bugged me just a little bit, but we're going to have to just leave it. It's okay. So there is our layout page. Okay, let's go ahead and turn it over to the back. And I'm going to check. This one's okay. This is actually one of the easier pages. So we just had that pocket that sits in the middle. That left a lot more room to decorate. Edges. Okay, so the little pocket that we're going to put right in the center is going to be 7 1/2 inches by 3. And we do want to score on the 2 short ends and 1 long end. And we're going to score it 1/2 inch. And I don't have to worry about measuring this because it's not going side to side of the page. It's sitting just right there in the center. Let's go ahead and just cut those corners right off. If you're using the cardstock, the craft cardstock, like my artisan cardstock, it's pretty heavy, so it does help with the bulk if you cut those corners right off. Let's see. And then they'll fit together pretty nicely. If anything overlaps, you just trim it. Really doesn't hurt anything if it overlaps. It just does make it lay a lot nicer. And grab your page. Now I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to use the ruler. Forgot. And I'm going to round the top off. So I need to go ahead and cut down on there. So I need to turn this sideways. So I want mine to be 1.5 inches. Let me go ahead and move the board. So I want 1.5 inches from the bottom. It was only 1 inch, sorry. Oh, one of the flowers from my last tutorial. So mine's going to sit 1 inch from the bottom, and I'm going to use the ruler. Or you can use it just like when we make our covers. That way I can put my forearms here, which will be much better. And we have the 9.5 inch page. So if you wanted to be really accurate, you have a 6.5 inch pocket. And if you wanted to find the center, it's going to be 3 1/4. So I would match that at 4 3/4, that center line. So you could even put it down here on the bottom. And let's go ahead and add our adhesive to the flaps on the back. Using my ruler, so I have 1 inch, and then at 4 3/4. Oh man, that slipped. Goodness. Okay, I won't push yet. I won't push. There we go. How did that move on me like that? Wow, there's got to be a full moon on the horizon. Okay, I want to craft, but things are not working out. And then that's where those cute little booklets went that we will be making together. So I'll have two of them. There'll be the flip books, so you can have photos in it. Just need to grab my ruler. And it's nice gusseted pockets, so you'll be able to get layers in there. Nice pencil mark. Just make sure everything is down where it belongs. Woohoo! We did it. We're getting there. So I kind of like keep things in order. Still my favorite. And then we have plaid. There we go. That one and page 5. Okay, the back of page 5 is that big, nice pocket. I'm going to move it to the side. And we also have quite a few pieces for this one. So I took this piece, love it, with the strips of all the different papers. You know, and I think I'll go ahead and let's mat the front and the back. For the back, I chose the butterfly. So we'll get these mats on, and then it will be done. It's time to clean out the corner chomper. Go ahead and ink both sides of these. And I'll give you the measurements for the front of page 5. That for now. And let's go ahead and mat. Do you know what I did? Yeah, you probably do. So much for trying to stay ahead. Let me check something really quick here to see if I can use this side or if it's going to be, actually, I can. That will be down. Okay. Actually, let's move this. It's going to be our back piece. Yeah, I should have been paying attention, huh? I'm telling you, it's one of those days. Nope. It's going to go like this. What am I trying to do here? That does look pretty cool at the top. I think it's okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna live with it because it's a whole sheet of paper. So that's gonna look cool hanging up. Yes, it does cut out some wording, but This is when you can be very creative. Let's see something really quick. So before I put that down, I definitely will be cutting a doily here to hide that. I don't know. Let's worry about that later. I might cut a new piece. Sorry, let's go back to here. Oh, good Lord. This is one of those videos that'll go down in history, as always. So let's cut our first piece. At 6 by 5.5. Then you're going to want 3 pieces that are 5 by 5.5. We are going to score these at 1 inch, all 3 pieces. Because we are going to build our little cascading page booklet. So I scored them at 1 inch because we want a larger space. And when we attach them, I'm turning this upside down because our 5.5 side is the way that's going to go. So go ahead on your 5-inch side, score at 1 inch. Once you're scored, we'll put this together. It's just a waterfall. These will be those waterfall pages. And just match top to bottom, making sure it's straight. Straight's important. Okay, and then our next piece. Really cleaned up. There we go. Burnish that edge. And our final piece. Now, that's the cardstock. Funny how sometimes die lots. Wow, that's quite different, these two. But good thing we're covering those. Just noticed sometimes you get those different packages and they are different colors. And I don't think there's much dye to the craft. I think it's just the wood. So it's got to be the wood coloring. Really haven't noticed it being that different. Now I like to make sure, just like that, there's no glue at the top and that everything's pretty straight. Then you can grab your page and grab your ruler because I do want this to be straight. So grabbing my ruler, I want it to be 1 inch from my hinge side. Basically right there. Something heavy. And I will use my stripes here for the bottom. Oops. And then I want it to be 1 inch from the hinge side. I'm going to go 1 1/4. There we go. So I'm taking it 1 1/4. Make sure it's lined up. So you can see what I'm doing. What I'm doing is getting it straight with the edge of the paper, not the cardstock that we build our page out of. So now on our back piece, we'll go ahead and put our adhesive. Now we can burnish that down. Magnet closure. So it will go on this piece, and then it's going to go back here. Sometimes this can be tricky for placement because you want to be on the outside here. I'll show you, but you don't want to get too far on the inside where your seam is. So you have to kind of let that grab, push it down, and we're perfect. So that will still, I can hide that with my cardstock, and that's going to hold it nice and closed. So I decided I do want to cut another sheet. I wish those butterflies were not directional, but they are, and you know, because of that, actually, I don't want to use my second sheet of cut apart. And I don't think we've used that one. Let me double check. We have not, the floral. So I think I'll go ahead and use that or the damask. That's a hard one. I think I'll go with the floral. So I need to cut this now to the size of my mat, which is 6 7/8 by 9 3/8. I'll have to keep that directional paper away from me. Around those corners. Here I was thinking I was going to save a few minutes on the video, and I was wrong. This is a really fun type of a pocket booklet to make. It also makes a really fun insert just to put inside of one of your pockets. But I'm going to adhere it down to the album, and you have a lot of space inside of there to put different things. So it's really fun. It's really pretty paper. Okay, for this one, let me give you the measurements and grab my sheets. Make sure things did not get mixed up with my measurements. Set that aside. Okay, your first one, you want it to be 5 inches by 11. Definitely is not the 5-inch one. 5 by 11. And you want to make sure you're right on the 11, but we can trim it. 6 1/4 by 11 and 7 1/2 inches by 11. So we're going to start with the 7 1/2 inch piece, and we want to score it at 1/2 of an inch. Doesn't matter, just turn it so it's on the 11-inch side. We want to score it in half at 5 1/2. You're going to do the same thing with the other two pieces. 6 1/4 inch side, I'm going to score it 1/2. Then I'll turn it to the 11-inch side and score it 5 1/2. 5-inch piece, we're going to score it 1/2 of an inch on the 5-inch side. Turn to our 11-inch side and score it 5 1/2. Now let's go ahead and furnish our edges. I'm going to start by folding it in half because I want to make sure they are perfectly matched at the top. On this, it kind of does matter. You're not going to be happy with the pockets. Okay. And let's go ahead and fold up that 1/2 of an inch. These pieces. And our next piece, it doesn't matter which one you grab. When you fold it in half, just match your tops. And then we'll furnish up those 1/2-inch sides. All right, make sure those are perfectly even. And then my 1/2-inch. Okay, so open up that 1/2-inch, fold this in half, okay? And with it folded in half, you're just going to miter that corner. The same with the top. Now you can cut those together. But when you open it, this is what you'll have. Let's repeat. So open. So now it's just together and miter. And miter. So now you have this. And let's repeat. And miter. And I'm going to start with my smallest piece first. I'm going to fold the bottom flap in. Can I touch that camera? Move it. There we go. Furnish that down so it's good and flat. Add my adhesive. And just fold it up. Now you can push the 1/2 inch to the back really creased that good. And this is what you have. You'll have a nice spot to put tags and things in. Now, if you don't like that, you can also glue this shut and have a top load little mat. It's totally up to you with this little design. Let's grab our next one, holding up the bottom. Adding our adhesive. And fold that 1/2 inch to the back. Making sure it doesn't stick. And the big piece. I'm going to push that to the back and furnish some more. Okay, let's grab our 2 smaller pieces, and they'll just kind of sit on top of each other. So the middle size piece, whoops, we're going to add adhesive again to this hinge. Right on the edge, matching top and bottom. And then the smallest piece, go ahead and open that flap and add your adhesive. Just making sure everything is pretty much flush. I did forget to round my corners, but I'll do that in just a second. Now I can go ahead and round my corners. I'm just doing the tops because I don't want to disturb that bottom. I want it to stay, you know, square. I'm just doing that outside edge. And then I'm going to bring this piece just around to close that. So I like to take a different foam folder. I'm just going to push that up there pretty hard. Kind of stretching that paper. There we go. And my adhesive. We're going to cover that with, whoops, hold on, I lost my video. Did I just hit something? Okay, no, I just hit the mouse. Thought I lost the video and didn't save it. That was going to be a disaster. Okay, so now that's closed. Let's give it just a minute. Now, a couple of things you can do. One thing, grab a scrap piece of your cardstock. That's not going to be wide enough. If you're going to use a 1-inch magnet, then you're going to want something that's probably, let me cut something that's more like 1 and a, I'm going to go 2. This is one way to close this. Run it over your edge, or you can score it either way. Scoring will actually give me a much straighter line. So, if you want a magnetic closure like this, and then it will also help hold in your mats that you're going to make to put in here. The only thing is, this one, you wouldn't want to stick out this way. We'll make it to stick up, because this will prevent that. So it'll become a top loader. But this way too, your pages will not, your contents will not fall out. You can also do a ribbon that comes around this way and ties. You can just use a magnet and go from this one to the bottom, or I'll do a magnet here. So you can do a lot of different closures with this. You can actually leave it, but you may have some contents spilling out. Clean that tip off. Grab my magnet. Oh. Magnet there. And it's far enough away from my edge. This one I'll put a piece of score tape for just double insurance. And you can grab your page, making sure it's not, upside down. And again, I'll be using the ruler so that I can center this a lot better. Like, I wish I had one of those levels with the bubbles for paper. That would be perfect. Okay, once you're satisfied, let's go ahead and add our adhesive to the back. Now for your hinges, you'll want to cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 7/8 by 12. And then we'll make our hinges. And before I smash that down, I'm just going to check here, push that up a little. And I'm going to go down inside of this pocket, get that burnished. Any extra there, just scrape it off with your scraper. Okay, now this little pocket, it's going to be a little tight because we did double that up on the back, on that hinge that came across the back to hide that. But it just gives it, see, a so much nicer finished edge than just those pages open. Now I'm going to do push that back just a hair. Okay. I think with my thumb to make that little bit of a gusset. There we go. See how that made that little bit of a gusset? Making sure it's straight, and it is. And there we have now room for growth that I should have done in the beginning. There we go. Now it's not hitting across there. And then you have a top load, or here on the sides you can actually have some tags sticking out on these two pages, just not this one. It will definitely be at the top. So we have our pages. There's 4, 3, and our second one, and our first one. So go ahead and grab your cardstock, and you'll want it to be 6 7/8 by 12, and we'll make our hinges. Okay, I have my cardstock ready, and it is 6 7/8 by 12. We want to score. We're going to have 1/2 inch gussets, so we're going to score every 1/2 inch, except for in the beginning and at the end. So I always start out at 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. Now, if you don't want to do your hinges this way, you can use any hinges you like. They'll all work. So 1 1/4 by 1/2. Now we're going to score at 2, 2 1/2, and 3. So every 1/2 inch score makes 1 gusset. Then we're going to score at 3 1/2, 4, 4 1/2. So that's number 2. 5, 5 1/2, and 6 makes 3. 6 1/2, 7, and 7 1/2. Kind of lost my train of thought. 1, 2, 3. There's hinge 1, 2, 3. That was hinge 4. I'm going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. And then we're going to go 8, 8 1/2. Kind of lost my train of thought here. I need to check something. I don't want to mess us up. So there's 1 and a gusset, 2 and a gusset, 3 and a gusset, 4 and a gusset. There's my 5. Okay, we don't need a gusset. So we scored at 8 1/2, 8. Now we only need a 1/4 inch. 8 3/4 will be your final score line. So I'm going to give those to you again. 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. 2, 2 1/2, 3, 3 1/2, 4, 4 1/2, 5, 5 1/2, 6, 6 1/2, 7, 7 1/2, 8, 8 1/2, and 8 3/4. And for this, I do like to use my score tape. It's a little more flexible. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch and my 1/2 inch. All right, we can start furnishing our score lines. So I'm going to start with those 1/4 inches, and they're a little so you got to kind of work it, but you want to push down with your paper as a guide, and that will help to keep them straight. So the next thing I do will I'll pinch those first 2 1/2 inch pieces together where we scored, and that's going to be our first hinge. And then I'm just going to push back and forth and back and forth. So there's hinge 1, Then we have a gusset. And we'll do the same. Now, if you are familiar with making hinges, of course, you can just scroll past this part or fast forward. But I don't like to fast forward. To skip one, even when if you've watched my albums, because there's always that new crafter, and I don't want them to miss out. So we have a gusset, and then grab the next two and pinch them together. Now don't worry if you are pinching the wrong ones together, because it's an easy fix. We're just folding paper. But this kind of helps establish, so you know there's our gussets. Pinch together our next set, and then you'll end with a 1/4 inch. Just like we started with the 1/4, we end with the 1/4. Now this one's a little harder to push down against the paper, but try and work it to make sure it's super straight. Your bone folder there if you need to. There we go. Okay. I don't cut this end off until later. So everywhere now that this is raised in the back, okay, that's a gusset. And on this little 1/4 inch, I'll use my 1/4 inch score tape. And we're going to add the 1/4 inch, and it will overlap. It's okay. Just put it in between those score lines. And if you don't have score tape and you're using a wet adhesive, that's okay. Just do not put it there yet. This is just the way I do it. So, like I said, you will either have a different way, or maybe you'll figure out your own way as you go. But what I like to do is skip. This is just how I remember things. It makes it easy for me. And then I like to put two together. So one will be on that gusset, one will be in the crease. So I skip, and then I have 2 rows together. Skip, and 2 rows together. And skip, and then 2 together. And skip, and then I have 2 together, which one will be your 1/4 inch. And then let's turn it over, and we can clean up that score tape. You want to check both sides, because you don't want it sticking out. It doesn't look nice. We can start now taking off the backing, the score tape, and I'm going to just take it off down here in the crevice. See, that's going to be your gusset. These 2 are your hinges, and these are where I remove the score tape backing. Okay, I'm just going to grab the first one and fold that over and burnish it good and push back. And we'll just keep going down till we attach all of our hinges together to become a full hinge. And one more. Okay, when you turn it over, you'll see your hinges. And I just move them back and forth a little bit. Nice and perfect. Now we want to go ahead and I just push it so they go over. Now one thing is important, you want to remember this 1/4 inch, so push back because you want to make sure that that is left there, because I use that to put the page on. I just like it much better than using wings. I've had to take my book out before. I've had to rip the hinges out, and it's much easier to rip them out when there's not wings or those overlaps onto your book, because they are in the underneath your matting and you're not going to get them off. And I don't know how many times, a couple of times, it's only been actually a couple of times I've had to rip my hinges out, but it is a lot easier to rip them out this way. Okay, pushing back because I want to make sure I keep that 1/4 inch there. Burnish it down really well. Now we can go ahead and do the same, making sure we push back so we have that 1/4 inch. I don't know I did that. So if you've done that with me, go ahead and fold that back. Forgot, we got to put our adhesive here and then cut this. I got a little ahead of myself, but it's a-okay. So just bend it back. Let's add our score tape. And on this last one, I'll use my 1/4 inch. And remove the backing. And I usually do this first. Wow, I kind of mess things up, and I apologize. Just lay that down before you push it down. I don't know why I got a little ahead of myself here. Grab your ruler, and I'm not taking off but an inch. And this way I'm going to go ahead and just use my knife, or I could have put it in the cutter. I mean, we're not lost here, not a big boo-boo. Making sure it's down. If it didn't go all the way like mine, you're just fine. But, you know, I've been so excited to make this album, and I've had some challenges, as you've seen with it. One is, mine is overhanging, so I need to straighten that out. There we go. So you want everything to be even. Now, I'm going to go down here. Now, this depends, too, on the paper you're using. The artisan cardstock I sell, I'm not worried because I won't poke a hole through. I mean, it's pretty strong. But you do want to get down in these gussets and push. Now, you can use your finger, or you can use anything blunt. Even the end of this retractable knife works really great because of its bluntness and it's rounded. So a lot of times I'll just use tools that are right there beside me. What you're looking for is that these are all together, that there's no holes or open spots, that you've got everything super attached. And you'll know if they're not quite attached. You'll just need to push down on your score tape or on your cardstock and get your score tape to adhere together. Now we do want to put our score tape on the back and then on our hinges. So I just push this back again, and now I'll cover that area. And in all of the mini albums that I've made, I do not reinforce my hinges with anything else. I leave it because also I want it to be flexible. And I've never had any of them come off. In fact, it's been next to impossible, and I've never had any break or my pages fall. So I'm very confident and comfortable doing it without any extra material like Tyvek or book cloth. But you do what you feel is comfortable. All right, let's get our hinges now sitting up straight, and we can add our score tape. And another thing that I do is I add it to the top. And you'll see why when we put our album together, our pages in, I don't like the score tape to show. And I lay my pages completely flat. And it does make a difference when you're adhering them to the hinge so your album pages don't stick straight up. If you've ever had that happen, it's frustrating. Keep going here. Now the other side. Just pushing it down as I go. Okay, now we're going to be able to figure out how big our hinge is. And I have cut the chipboard for my album, and it is 7.5 by 10.5. And the hinge is going to be a 1/4 inch larger. I go about a 1/4 inch larger than my hinges that I've made. So these are 2.5 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece of chipboard now that is 7.5 by 2 3/4. I grabbed the wrong piece. Nope. And still I look at it. Oh, I cut that at 3. Wow, I went a little big on that, didn't I? I always check it though. That's one reason why. For some reason that just didn't look straight to me. I'm cutting, oh, I already cut my cardstock. So the chipboard is 7.5 by 9.5. So I kept this at 12, but I cut my cardstock at 9.5 wide. I like 1 inch at the top and 1 inch at the bottom. And this will be kind of long. So we're going to put these together with our 1/4 inch score tape on the 7 or 9.5 inch side. Remember, they're 12 inches long. And I don't know if we'll need 3 or 4. We shouldn't need 4, but we're going to start out with 3. And now we'll just put these 2 guys together. And on this, what will become the middle piece, our 7.5 inch side, we'll add that 1/4 inch score tape. Whoops. And I'll try and stay in camera as much as possible. Pretty long. So now we have 1 very long about 36 by 9.5 inch piece. And let's grab our cardstock. Chipboard, goodness. Okay. So what we want to do is, it'd be nice to just put this in the middle, but we can't. Because basically, we need our cardstock seam to be where there's going to be enough coverage on our chipboard. And so what we're going to do is, you're going to have quite a bit left on your ends, but we're going to cut them off. So I'm going to start with my spine piece, and it'll sit in the middle, and we'll bring these to the front and back cover. And then my seams are right here and right here. So that's really good. And when we cut off the ends, we'll be using that for mats, tabs. So that will work. Let's start with this one. We want to put it in the middle. I'm going to be using some of my score tape pieces from my big sheets to put here. And it does tear. These were from my 8.5, 11 inch sheets that were just left over, so I don't like to waste them, of course. And I'll be using the bigger pieces on the full sheet. There we go. And let's grab, if you're using your quilling ruler, that helps me to keep 1 inch at the bottom. It's quite long and large, much larger than your scrapbooking. I can put it here at the bottom and then put my forearms on there. And also center things, keep things pretty much straight. And on chipboard, sometimes you need to do a little extra burnishing. If you like a mini album, which is a larger mini, if you like a sturdy one where you're not going to have, where it doesn't feel floppy and flimsy, you need to wrap it. This is what is going to make your album even stronger. So holding this down, so I have 1 inch at the bottom, I'm just eyeballing, pretty much centering it. Down it goes. When you wrap your chipboard completely, it makes for a much sturdier album. Now, let me grab one of my score tape sheets. I'll tell you what, the score tape sheets, well, they save your score tape, but it also makes it, I'll tell you what, a lot less painful making your covers. Now, if I was doing this on the inside, I definitely would make sure that it's side to side. I'm not worried about tape there because there's plenty of adhesive here to hold this down. If you are, see, I cut mine just a little bit short, but I don't want to waste it. I could put 1/4 inch on the end, but it'll be fine. And even the sheets, it's flexible, so you can just fold back any that's hanging over using my ruler, making sure it's, oh, I almost forgot something else, the most important. What am I thinking? Our spacer, we've got to have a spacer, the 1/4 inch score tape on each side of our chipboard. And this is another trick to keep your album or your cardstock from cracking. When you have enough space between your chipboard, you won't have any cracking. And that 1/4 inch, I like to use that. Now remember, your album needs to go the 9.5 inch way. Using my ruler, and I'm just holding it tight so that I know that I have 1 inch at the bottom. And it will match up perfectly. So we only need 1 inch now at this end. Using my ruler again and just my straight edge. Save that. We'll be using it, I'm sure. Now we can turn this around. Wonder what I was thinking when I cut these. It sure didn't cut it 9.5. I think it only went to 9. So I'll put it at this end. And I'm going to put a 1 piece of my 1/4 inch here. It has not been my day to measure correctly. But this makes the process go by so much faster. I love it. Okay, ruler, 1 inch at the bottom, holding it tight, and then just butting my chipboard up to my score tape and to the bottom of the ruler. And now I have perfectly straight album cover. And I do burnish from the back side with my spatula, because sometimes, you know how you go across the front and it does scratch the paper, if you've ever noticed. I hope that's not cracking. It's going to be time for new ones if it is. But Harbor Freight, they're so inexpensive. All right, let's cut our inch off. Or I mean, cut everything but our inch off. Then with the ruler, now one thing I like to do on these seams, I'm going to turn it so I like to score them, because you're going through 2 layers of paper, so it's pretty stiff. And then I like a blunder bone folder to score the rest. I don't want to cut into my paper. I just like to go around the edges. And then we'll do this edge. And now we can push our chipboard up against our cardstock. And I do push down. You can even saw back and forth a little bit. There we go. I'm going to square off those corners so my guide, I know where I'm going to cut them. Just push that over and over and over. Okay, let's remove the backing here. This will serve to pull down when we cover the inside. It'll pull the top layer down. And we do want to use our score tape. And I use art glitter glue. And I'll go around the cardstock here first. And then I will use score tape also on the chipboard. Now the reason for the score tape on the chipboard is, see this bare spot? It helps to grab the score tape to hold that down. And then I'll use the art glitter glue also along the top to give it a smoother texture. You'll see how much nicer your cardstock wraps. when you use a little tiny bead of glue. Just get everything burnished down. Now let's cut our corners. Now, there's a reason I made those squares. This is my favorite way. All I'm going to do is cut out, lay that down, and cut out that square. When I fold it, I will always have a nicely covered piece of chipboard. No worries about if I cut it too short, because it will always be covered. And also, let me show you, when I bend this over, you see how that sticks out there? That just tells me it's too long. I'm not going to really mess with the corner. I'm just going to trim it so I have a perfectly executed corner. My husband always uses the word executes. He executes the next project. And I've been picking that up, and it's not really not really funny. I realize that. It's just I hear him saying it all the time. Now with the art, I'm skipping so many steps. Let's remove the backing to our score tape. All of it. There we go. Now our tape, our glue. And I'm just going to go along the top of the chipboard here. I'm not really adding more. I'm just spreading it out somewhat along the chipboard. And let's go ahead and work our paper over. One thing to remember is paper is also, it's a fiber. It will stretch a little bit. And if you've ever made your covers and you have, and you've had a bubble there, maybe you didn't quite get it over the top of the chipboard, it's very frustrating. You can't fix it. Go ahead and really pull on your paper, pull it down so that you know you've got a really nice tight fit on top of your chipboard. And then when you turn it over, look how nice and smooth your top will be. It's not bubbly or wavy, nothing. And let's do it again. And it depends on the paper you're using. You know your paper, so be gentle if you're worried about tearing it. And then let's just pull it over. And I am pulling a little bit. I want it to be nice and tight. See that? I love it. Now, before you flip your sides over, you want to check each side to make sure it's not hanging over either edge. And as long as it's not, and it looks good to you, I'm just going to take a little bit here. You can trim it, but do not trim this corner, that's when you're going to end up with a hole when we take the edges off our corners. I'm just grabbing that top middle and folding it over. See that nice covered corner? Just check each side. Cut this one just a hair. But do not touch that corner, or you'll end up with a hole. So see when I trimmed it how it stayed square? That's what I mean. And it goes over so easy. Alright, let's just make sure you have everything down. Anywhere that looks like it needs a little extra burnishing. And we need to do our creases now. Now when you push down, you'll notice it goes right into that crease, and the cardstock will adhere to your score tape, and you should be able to lay this down, not hear any cracking, nothing. Now I kind of bend that out so that it's nice and smooth, and you won't hurt it. Let's do the same here. Now when we put the cover on, of course it'll get a little bit tighter. And no cracking. We got some glitter everywhere. Now we need to do the inside. So it is 7.5 inches. I'm going to cut some paper, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces to start. Let's see. We're going to make it, I believe. We're going to cut 2 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock to 7 3/8 by 12. So one will go on the right, one will go on the left, and they should meet right in the middle of our spine. Yes, perfect. I need to go ahead and cut another piece of my score tape. This time, I need to be pretty accurate. And I'm actually out of my sheet, so I'll have to use my pieces. And that's okay. So one thing, when you're using your score tape sheets, you want to make sure you're pretty much side to side, because you need that totally covered. Good. I like to work with it towards me, the short end. I'm going to match up end to end, and if it happens to go off centered a little, you can trim it with your scissors. See that right there? I'm debating. I think I'll use my knife. You can even put it in your cutter. And don't push, just lightly on the edge. That way you won't cut your paper. Now I need to add some score tape because I've got to have that edge secure. And I'll make sure that this piece is going to hit in the middle. So let's grab our board. Okay. Now I like to make sure, whoops, if you do have any hanging over the edge, go ahead and you're using the sheets, make sure you did get that turned under. Okay, just a little bit was there. Well, goodness, I keep seeing them when the light hits, just so-so. All right, you should have just a little bit of a border. Down, especially the edges. Okay, now our next one. These were some leftovers from another project. So I'm going to use those up. And we'll just kind of make a patchwork here of score tape. I know, some of this you might think it's overkill, but using the sheets, I've never had any issues whatsoever with my albums coming loose or bubbling in the middle. And since I'm just using up these scraps that were from other albums. Oops. Make sure I'm at the edge. And I've had a pile of these just hanging out for a while, so I thought, well, let's just use them. Let's put them on the book and get them used up. And down this center, I'm going to add a couple pieces. And that's my crazy score tape patchwork. But it is so much quicker. And I don't know about you, but covers, I love them when they're done, and I love making them when I have these supplies. They're not always my favorite. Okay. Now the main thing is I want to make sure I am even with the centerpiece where the two are joined together. So you don't want one to be lower than the other. Along our edge, oops, make sure it's down. That's why I like the spatula. Okay, once we get all of our edges, everything is down, secure. Because it's easier to fix it now. There we go. Okay, let's find our, there we go, hinge pieces here. Now you want to be gentle, but you want to make sure that paper is going to grab a hold of the score tape. You'll know it does because you'll get a really nice indent there, and you'll even still be able to fold it. You'll have no cracking, and it'll just be gorgeous. Yeah, just within filming, I had to stop filming for a few days, and I picked up this wonderful cold. So I know, I apologize. All the sniffling, and look at that. Could you ask for anything nicer? You do have a seam here. I'm going to flip down to the back. It had a little bit of the blue ink on it, but you're not going to see it when we cover it. We are ready to put our spine in, our hinges in. And they're going to sit beautifully in between our folds here. And I need to make sure I did get that down on the score. See, I just like the way it gives it definition. Now let's go ahead and remove all the backing of our score tape. Or if you're using an adhesive wet, you can apply it now. I have used the art glitter glue for this, and it does work. It's just kind of my preference. There we go. Now, I'm just going to center it. And once you get it down, go ahead and burnish it well. And I pretty much just use my thumbs here. Okay, are you ready? We're going to put our pages in. So let's grab our pages. And I'm going to start with the back page. Oh, I better not start losing my voice more. And the first thing I want to do is kind of open it. Now, it's going to be pretty hard to open. These are pretty stiff by now. And you've also got magnets grabbing each other. And it is a much longer page to work with. So, put one end in. And I first slide the other. Like I said, I'm not going to take the tape off until I make sure of the fit, which should be a perfect fit. You don't have to cut any corners off or alter it. See how it slides in nicely? And so let's go ahead and remove the backing of our score tape. Grab our page. And I'm going to put the top on first. Now, I lay it down once it's on that hinge, and it does touch the bottom, but once you lay it down, you're going to see how it pushes it forward. Now I've got about a 1/16 of an inch there. My page is laying flat, and I didn't even have to do anything special. Now you're going to push back on it. See, it's even going to lay nicely for you. No special hinges, nothing special, just knowing how to work your paper. Let's go ahead, remove the backing, and then our next one was the pocket. So always make sure you're going the right direction. This one probably won't be as tight because we don't have magnets. Slide your page on, lay it down, making sure, and you should be even top to bottom of your pages because there's nothing to wiggle. Once you lay it down, this one I'm going to move a little bit up. It doesn't have quite the bulk. There we go. When you push down, you'll have that about 1/16 of an inch away from the bottom of your hinge. Push it backwards, and then it will lay nice and flat. Okay, our next one. Thing to remember is, I didn't think our plaid went together here. Hold on. This one goes there. Okay, this one. This one. Okay, that is right. This one and this one. For some reason, that just doesn't look right to me, but it is. Okay, this is another one that won't be quite as bulky. It's not right. Aha! I almost put my page in upside down. Whoa! Because remember, these two matched. Caught it. Yay! I knew that blue went with there. Okay. Heart attack. I would have been upset. See, this one opens from the bottom. This one opens from the top. Okay. Bring your page over. Easy, if you can, if you've got that hand span, that's sometimes helps. But once you get that top in, lay it down. Now you'll see it kind of, the hinge kind of bows up. Push it down. Push back, and then it will just lay on top of the next one, just like it was always meant to be there. Okay, this one is our lay it down, push, so they're secure. Push it backwards, like I said, it should, see how it just lays down. It will get a little, once we add our embellishments, it's going to get a little bit bulky, but you're not going to have the problem of your pages sticking up because look how nice they're cascading down. And I've done it with a regular hinge, and it just has to do with the way you tell your paper to go. If I was to stick it there, it's not going to bend over as nice, of course, but because we took the time to lay our page flat, we basically told our paper which way we want it to go. All right, let me get my hand in there if I can. There we go. Push those guys open. Well, we've always got to have one that's going to be stubborn. Wow, and it's this one for sure. There we go. Lay it completely flat. And wow, we did it. Okay, let's check out our album before we move on. So we've got a little pocket we made with our flaps. Then we still have, you know, we still have a lot of work to do. But look how nice your pages will go. Of course, they won't be wide that flat when we add our embellishments. decorate the front. Have a nice waterfall to the side. Love this one. And I can't remember, I need to make my maps. Yeah. Okay. So there is the beginning of the book. We still have our cover and we still have our latch to make. So that's going to be part 2. I want to get this one formatted so that you guys don't have to have such a long video. And I can't wait to get it finished. So we'll be back with part 2 and we'll get our album all finished.